We are a nation of water babies. We love to get out on the water, from dinghies to luxury yachts, and an ever-growing number of cruise liners that are coming down under. No matter what the size, nearly all boats will have an anchor, and particularly ships in the sites, anchors are in the sights of a world-first study into the damaging effects on the seabed. Are heavy ship anchors in particular carving a destructive path through coastal ecosystems? Marine geophysicist with NIWA and University of Auckland Marine Science lecturer is Dr. Sally Watson, and she is with me now. Hello, Sally.
Kia ora, thanks for having me.
Kia ora, thank you for being on the show. Look, what led you to looking into how anchoring potentially damages the environment?
Well, it was basically by accident, actually. I started noticing these weird features outside ports when I was looking at the seafloor as a part of my normal job. And I just started to notice that they were all over the place, and they seemed to coincide with maybe where the anchorage was. So I did a bit of more digging and found that actually these marks on the seabed, which basically look like scours and gouges, are actually related to anchors being dropped on the seabed, and then that anchoring process where ships are swinging with the wind.
Yeah, with the tide, with the movement of the water, they move around.
Yeah.
So what damage though? Because, you know, if they're dropping it, say in close in port where it's quite shallow water, and you know, it's I'm only saying I don't know what's under there, but I wouldn't think it's a thriving reef. What is it kind of landing on? What's it landing on anyway? Just sand?
Well, it depends. So all around the world and around New Zealand, we've got different seabed that the anchorages are located in, and that could be rock, that could be sand, or that could be mud. And all of those different substrates host different ecosystems. And so it really depends on what's living down there. And I guess if you think about the size of the average piece of seagrass or some mussels, they are much, much smaller than even a small boat anchor. So these things are basically in the way of the anchoring, and they're potentially being impacted by it.
And obviously, the bigger the boat, the bigger the ship, the bigger the anchor. What of these massive? That's right. Yeah, what of these massive cruise liners that are coming in?
Yeah, this is one of the things we're really interested in, particularly because cruise ships are often going to areas that potentially are more pristine as well. And so, you know, whilst we might have lots of ships going into Auckland and Tauranga and Wellington, these areas have a higher degree of human activity and impact already. But when we have ships going down to more pristine areas and anchoring, potentially they might be doing one of the main damages in that part of the world.
Yeah, and I suppose the ones too that go maybe around the Pacific or island hopping, you know, would that cause more problems as well?
Well, so in terms of a biosecurity issue, like every time they bring the anchor back up, they have to clean it and make sure everything's off it. But yeah, it basically anything that's living on the seabed, which, I mean, things are living everywhere on the seabed, from very, very tiny microscopic things to much bigger seaweed and things. And if that's being physically gouged upon by a chain or an anchor, then it's probably not going to survive there.
Yeah. Sally, Derek has texted in and said, surely bottom trawling causes more damage to the seabed in 1 hour than many boat anchors could possibly cause. Would that be fair?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a question that I actually get a lot, and I don't dispute the impact of bottom trawling is actually quite helpful for us to understand how anchoring impacts the seabed. But we do know that bottom trawling typically doesn't happen in our shallow coastal zone. And we also know that that's exactly where anchoring happens. And so we've got some really important ecosystems there. This is where we like to hang out, socially, culturally important space. And it's also where we have this physical impact, which actually has been very likened to the impacts. The impacts from anchoring have been likened to those of bottom trawling. So it's more about where it's happening than the spatial coverage of its footprint.
So So how long more of the study have you got to do? Are you kind of wrapping up your findings? And then when you do that, where do we go from here? What's an alternative?
Yeah, so actually we're right at the beginning. We are 6 months into a 3-year project.
Okay.
So it's really exciting for us, just in the data collection stage, which is great. And ultimately, we understand that anchoring is a process that we've been doing since people have been going to sea. It's a fundamental maritime safety issue as well. We get that. We don't want to throw a spanner in the works and just say no one can anchor ever. Yeah. But we want to work with...
Boats everywhere, just going off into the distance.
I can